If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear. The camera's here and the microphones, and they wanna know, the return. If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear. The crowd is here and the lights are on, and they wanna show.
Walk-up music is played to help you get into the right mental state to perform at your peak, to hype you up. In 2007, Chicago native Lupe Fiasco released one of the all-time great walk-up tunes, Superstar, which peaked at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Since then, it's been featured in video games and has been used as the walk-up music for star baseball players and UFC fighters. Chicago native Natasha Puckett is her own kind of superstar. Her CX journey was unplanned, but her passion is as obvious as a stadium full of fans waiting for the next hit to drop. We dig deep into what it takes to retain great talent, and then we discuss the next hit to drop, her new podcast, CX Unfiltered. This week on Next in Queue, we discuss the importance of culture and leadership in retention, humanizing employees to reduce turnover, strategies for improving team engagement and flexibility, creating genuine workplace relationships and community, Chicago foods that outsiders miss, the good cop and bad cop dynamic in leadership, navigating hard conversations and communication styles, and launching and growing the CX Unscripted podcast and community efforts. Let's get to it.
Thanks for joining another episode of Next in Queue. Today, live from LA, it's Natasha Puckett. Natasha, how are you?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain on this lovely Monday we have here. It's beautiful outside, so I'm doing pretty good.
Good deal, good deal. Hey, we got to talk about your background just right out of the gate because I see a glass of bourbon right behind you. It's a little early in the morning for me to have bourbon, so I'm going to stick with my coffee, which may or may not be spiked. The reason that you have this background is you are launching a new podcast called
Yes.
CX Unscripted. And
Yes.
it's so unscripted, apparently, that there is going to be some imbibing potentially happening. And so since that is the case, I am just going to take this moment to invite myself onto your show because I want to have a drink
do
with
it.
you on your show.
Let's do it. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. You have a day job too,
I do.
besides drinking and talking to strangers on the internet who then are not strangers anymore. They become friends. That's the way it works. Just in case you weren't aware of that. You are the senior manager escalations and CX quality at high level.
Yes.
CRM, go high level, often referred to as go high level. And you've been in this space a hot minute. I mean, tell us how you got into CX and support and doing what you're doing today.
Man, so thanks again for having me on the show. I really, really appreciate it. We're going to do some great work here. My CX journey started about 20 years ago, and I started just as like an IC, working from call center to call center. It wasn't until after this one call center I worked at, it was like a real estate, and I was working the evictions department, which was fun. get cursed out every day. Yeah, I was
That
the
was
person who's
fun?
you know what? Because it was interesting every day. I was the person who sends the sheriffs over to the house to collect. It's
Mhm.
not always a good thing, but that was the most exciting part of my job at the time. And then I just wanted to do something different. And I started at a startup company called PerkSpot. And once I got there and the startup culture was very different from call center culture, I was like, "Oh, I like this. I like the freedom. I like the vibes. The office is like a loft. They're playing music. They're eating at their desk. They're going out for lunch, grabbing happy hour." I was just like, "I like this. I get invited on trips." I'm like, "Okay, this is a really
Mhm.
good environment." And then after my spell there, I kind of moved to LA, chasing love. And when I got to Cali, my job there ended. I started at like another job and it was back to a call center. And I was like, "Oh, I don't." After a couple of weeks, I was like, "No, I got to go back to startups." This was great. I got to go back to startups. But then after that, I found a company called Fight Camp, and they were in a very early stage. And I didn't even apply. I had a profile on, I think at the time it was called Angels List, which is now Well Found. And I just had a profile on there. One of the founders hit me up and he was like, "Hey, you want to come in for a meeting? We can do like a quick intro." I said, "Yeah, let's do it." We met. It was so informal. The next day they invited me to brunch and that was it. And that really launched my CX career at its highest form, I would say. I know I could still go higher, but like that really kicked it off. Being a founding member, staying there for 6 years, head of CX, done wonderful things there, and then transition over to high level. I did some fractional work in between, but then transitioning over to high level, which is SaaS, CRM. That really, like I said, my journey going from IC to all the way to head of CX, that's just been my story. Just climbing and climbing and climbing.
That is the one thing that I have always loved about this industry is there is an opportunity to climb,
Yeah.
and it is, in my mind, in most places, very merit-based as opposed to the document-based, right? And so that paper ceiling doesn't exist as much
Mhm.
in this world, and I think that is an exciting thing
Yeah.
about what CX has to offer.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of that, right, in order for you to have that opportunity to climb, right, you gotta
Mhm.
stick around first. That's a big part of it is you gotta stick around. And you talked about call center versus what it's like in a startup. And I do think that's an important distinction to make because the environments are very different. And at the same time, any frontline role there can be challenges with retention,
Mhm.
and it's incumbent upon leaders to drive retention.
Yes.
We just did an episode talking about burnout, and I want to now talk about how we better drive retention in our organization. So I'm just
Mhm.
going to ask you, first of all, is there such a thing as good attrition?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, tell me what good attrition looks like.
Well, for one, it really starts at the culture of the company. If that is not a baseline, it is going to be very hard to build later on. And it starts with your bigwigs, your founders, because everybody else gets it underneath. And if
Mhm.
it's already trash at the top, it's going to be trash below. It is.
Yes.
It is. If you look at call centers, most call centers have a turnover rate of like 35 to 40%, right? Some of them can even reach 100% annually.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's big. And I never wanted to be in an environment or people that I lead to make up the most ridiculous stories of why they can't come to work. People would rather pretend someone died than come to work. You've been to your grandfather's
Yeah.
funeral 9 times this year. How
Yeah.
many granddaddies do you have? Because I only have two.
Look, through marriage,
Got 9 granddaddies. Wow. We've sent several flowers. But yeah, it when you can humanize your ICs, you can humanize the people that work for you and work with you instead of always treating everybody like a number, like a name, a project. Some sometimes you treat people like a project. It's a one
mhm,
and done. But
yeah.
if you start to humanize people Even if everything isn't 100% at a company, like maybe the pay isn't there or work life balance is a little off. But if you can create a really good environment, those things don't matter as much. And people tend to stay for the people that are there or the work that they're doing seems meaningful.
Hmm.
And you have to kind of have those recipes to have really good employee retention.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you already talked about it starting at the top. And I think in organizations that have really good leadership at the very top, that culture tends to be
Hmm.
really strong and kind of pervades throughout the organization. And, the way that we do it is strong and drives that retention. And
Hmm.
then I think there are companies where the leadership is toxic and everything is just kind of a shit show from top all the way down. But most companies are probably somewhere in the middle of that span. So let's talk about if I'm in a company where I am charged with keeping a team together long term. And maybe my culture isn't like the best culture that ever was, but it's also not like super toxic.
Hmm.
What are some things that I can do to really make sure that my team shows up every day and wants to show up every?
Yeah. So there are some companies you can work for and they may not have the best culture, but you can control what goes on within your team and create culture within your team.
Hmm.
So one of the things that you have to kind of look at is one, how your team kind of communicates and operates with each other. So you can kind of see like what the vibe is, a vibe check. Then I would also say having flexible schedules within teams because a lot of companies act like people don't have real lives. If people don't, quit jobs because the job is hard, they quit because the job is hard and doesn't fit their life.
Yeah.
So you have to, I always say to humanize. I've had mothers on my team before, and you can go to any other job and say the school is out. They make it hard for you to go and pick up your child. And now you have to choose between your job and your child. They're going to choose their child, but then they're going to get that infraction because they left. Or you have people who want to travel or things are exciting like yes you want to make sure your metrics and the operations can maintain but people have real lives and I want to support whatever they're doing in their lives. I want to be a cheerleader for them in and outside of the office. I also want to create space like it's also how you talk to your team, how you do your one-on-ones. I've never led my one-on-ones with an iron fist, and it's just me pounding on you for 30 minutes to an hour. It's actually for you to pound on me for 30 minutes to an hour. Tell me what I am not doing correctly. What are your pain points today? What's going on with life? If there's something I need to talk about, then maybe I will, but I allow you that space for you to talk. I also try not to have so many meetings. I meet about what's important because no one likes a bunch of meetings on their calendars. And then I also throw in some fun things. Like at my job, I do a turn up Thursdays where I meet with all of my managers and we just talk. We don't talk about business. We just talk. How was your weekend? Hey, didn't you mention you had a date last week? How did that go? Are we getting a second one? Just really creating that space because we spend a lot of time with the people we work with than our families. So why not make that time worthwhile? Why have every moment just filled with chaos? I want to sprinkle a little magic in there or some fun or some smiles. I remember at the top of the year, I asked people what were their New Year's resolutions. We all wrote it down, and every now and then we check in, like, "Hey, how's that going? Where are you in that book that you said you wanted to write?" I just want to make sure if they're going to spend all of their hours here and give us all of them, just make it worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Have you found that that is easier to do at that startup scale versus as you start to get into larger organizations? Tell me about that.
Yes, at a startup early stage, if you're part of like that founding team, you create what the culture is going to look like. And the people who come in, and I even try to do this when I do interviews. I don't do stiff interviews. You're already nervous
Hmm.
coming in, and I try to set at companies that I've been with who have really good cultures, we set that tone during interviews. So you know what type of company or what we're about now. And the way I've done interviews in the past, as soon as somebody gets on camera, I said, do not look at your resume and don't read it off because I'm gonna tell you to stop. And I've had a young lady come in and word for word, she had a script. And I said, all right, now turn off your other screen, exit out of your resume, and start over from scratch. And I remember there was another guy in an interview with me. He was just like, I was like, no, start over. And when she started over, I learned about her now. She was talking
Mhm.
about her. And she's like, thank you for doing that because what you were giving me was not giving. And now that I've kind of lowered your stress levels a little bit, now you can just talk about, what you've done in the industry. It doesn't have to be this bullet and strange words you're giving me off your resume. Just talk. So it starts right during an interview session. And then once you start building your team, they adapt to that culture now. And now
Yeah.
everybody that comes up under them, they're adapting to. It's a chain reaction. If that chain reaction is trash from the beginning, everybody's going to get the same experience. It's very hard to, in my experience, being at early startups, being at really big organizations, there is I wouldn't say a bit of a battle, but there's a lot you have to do to kind of change a little bit of the culture. And that's when I say you have to change it within your own team. If you weren't the um, founding members or team of that company, then you have to control what you can control. So I try to control what is within my team, what is within my department, and do my town halls different, do my meetings different, so they can see a different side of everything that the business has to offer. But I've been blessed to be at some companies that have really good or decent cultures.
Yeah, for sure. You hit on something that I think we don't take into account enough when it comes to retention issues, and that is the hiring process and how real we are in the hiring process and how selective we are about
Mhm.
finding good fits. I mean, we can certainly isolate for skills based off of a resume, but I think when you find someone and or disqualify people based off of cultural fit, sometimes that has a bigger impact
Yes.
on retention than do they hit every single skill that I have in the JD?
Yeah. Yeah. And opportunities that I've taken in my interviewing process, like, yeah, we do the first one where you'll meet with me and someone else from the team. And once you're past that stage and you do a trial, I love to do a trial so that people will know what they're getting into because we're not just interviewing them, they're interviewing us. Do you like a day in a job at this company? Let's see. And so during a trial, I'll allow them to meet the rest of the team and have lunch virtually, of course. And during that lunch, the team is able to ask rapid fire questions. And I try to have my team keep it as PG-13 as you possibly can so we are not sued. don't
Noted, noted.
don't ask any bizarre questions. The more we grow, please don't. It allows them to see, okay, is this somebody that can joke with us, or is this someone that fits in well? How do they communicate? Because I really believe like skills, hard skills you can teach, soft skills that take a little bit more time. And I want a team that is able to blend. Like you will at times have some friction here or there, but I love a team that can blend together, that can work together, that love being around each other. I think it makes the whole organization just 10 times better, goes our reach because people like being around each other. Again, we're around each other 8 hours a day, maybe even 10 if there's overtime. It's a lot of time. I want you to like the person you're working with.
Yeah. I think we often hear this phrase that people don't quit companies, they quit managers, but I think
Mhm.
you just talked about something that is equally, if not more important, and that is people need a best friend at work. And having a best friend at work, even if it's not like really, truly your best friend, but having that person that you can develop a strong connection with, even if maybe my manager's going through some stuff and we don't necessarily have the best relationship, that can also impact retention in a positive way when they really
Yes.
like the people they work with.
Yes. Yes. I was able to, at one of my last jobs, I had two people who are best friends right now, and they live in different cities, and they travel to each other. He's an uncle to her daughters. I've gone to baby showers. I used to do, like, when majority of my company was in California, and my team was in California or San Diego. Wow, people drive out to Orange County and we'd have a team outing at a bar. Everyone shows up. Not one person is missing because we're excited to connect, excited to see each other. I really love when people are able to form those type of relationships, those types of bonds, because it does keep you there longer. Like, say if there's a stall on hiring or a stall on raises or something. You're like, oh God, I wish I could make more money. But I really like being here. I really like the people who are around me, and I wouldn't leave for anything. Then you've created a really good environment. You've created friendships. I don't have family here in Orange County or in California. My family's back at home in Chicago, but I've built really meaningful relationships at jobs because of the people there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you something. Do you miss Chicago winters?
Absolutely not. No, 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 no. I do not miss that hog. Now, sometimes I may go home in February for my mom's birthday, but
Mm.
no, 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 no. It is cold. Now, I do miss the snow a little bit. Coming to California the first time, and it's Christmas, and Christmas doesn't feel like Christmas without snow. I see people in scuba diving shorts and just like, this cannot be real life. Why does the Santa have on trunks?
So I am curious, like, what is the most like only in Chicago thing that you really miss that you can't find in LA these days?
Food. The food scene in Chicago is unmatched. It is unmatched. Chicago food just feels like somebody's grandma put their foot in it
Mm.
at every restaurant. Here is nothing but avocado toast.
Probably some enclaves of LA that are going, you need to travel more. But I think people understand what you're getting at. Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
difference.
there's just something authentic about the food in Chicago. Now I will say the Aludela tacos here. Let me tell you something. I try to do a taco tour almost every other day. If I'm driving and I see a spot, I was like, yeah, let me pull on over. Let me get 2 carne asadas real quick. If I see another one, I'm gonna pull over and I'm gonna compare who has the best carne asada now.
Nice, nice.
I've probably gone to like 30 different taco places out here. I have
Okay.
my favorites, but
So
yeah,
LA is definitely it's got a grip on the tacos in a way that Chicago does not.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Chicago is more like I just tasted something.
what did you taste?
Chicago is more like your upscale soul food scene.
Mm.
The food is it's just really good. It reminds me of Atlanta. Atlanta is the very same way.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I feel like they're neighbors. And I always say Chicago is the suburbs of Mississippi. It's nothing but the South. It's nothing but the South. So the food it's just really rich in that. And I do miss it. Now Cali has like vibey restaurants, the things that you see
Mhm.
on Instagram or TikTok. If that's your lane, then hey, that is your lane. But you might go get something else to eat down the street. You might go get some tacos after leaving this spot. But at least the vibes were nice.
Okay, so I think most people who did not grow up in the Chicago area will
Hmm.
think of Chicago for 2 specific foods, and those are Chicago dogs
Hmm.
and Chicago deep dish. But let's throw those out the window. What is the one, like, Chicago food that people are missing out on because they're so focused on deep dish or Chicago dogs?
Harold's Chicken.
Mm.
Harold's Chicken. And oddly, there is one in Hollywood. Now I go to that one. There's one in Hollywood because it tastes like Chicago. You'll wait 40 minutes for 4 wings. That's Chicago. Okay. That is Chicago. But it's funny that you say Chicago's known for 2 things: deep dish and hot dogs. Chicagoans do not eat deep dish. Deep dish. We don't. What is
For
that?
the tourists.
It's for the tourists. We don't eat any deep dish. There's 2: Beggar's Pizza and Italian Fiesta. It's thin crust. It's greasy as hell. You can get every topping you could think of on it. It's really good. Those are the main two places. We don't go to no Uno's or Giordano's downtown. No. Italian Fiesta, Beggar's Pizza. That's it. What is a deep dish?
You heard it here, folks. If you are
We
going
don't
to
do it.
Chicago,
We don't do it.
that's not the actual Chicago way. So,
Now, a hot dog, yeah. We do
yeah, I
we
mean,
like a hot dog. No ketchup though.
yeah.
We don't believe in ketchup. Just give us
I
mustard.
mean, it exists.
It exists, but we do not put ketchup on our hot dogs.
Okay,
Just give us
okay.
mustard, some celery salt.
Sure.
And you're
I
good.
just want to make sure people know that you do believe in ketchup as a thing. Like
Just
it
not on our dogs.
exists, just not on the dog. Oh, something people may not know about you
Mhm.
is like this was not the planned career choice. You had a planned career choice, and this ain't it.
Yes. No.
So, what was that career choice?
I was going to become an officer. It was either by ways of CO or out on the streets, a patrol officer.
So, this leads me to ask in, and this may be different in your personal life versus your work life, but are you good cop or are you bad cop? How does that
I'm definitely
play
a
out?
good cop. I'm a good cop.
Okay. Just,
I'm a
I
good
thought
cop.
I'd check, right? I mean,
Hey, you gotta ask.
yeah, I mean, look, tough love is needed sometimes. You got to hold people accountable sometimes, and
Mhm.
sometimes you need that bad cop. But I think everyone leans one way or another, and
Huh?
I just had to check to see which way you lean. So knowing that, have you found it challenging to have some of those more difficult conversations with people that you are leading in teams when you aren't getting what you expect or you need to hold someone accountable and they're not living up to their end of the bargain? Has that been a challenge for you?
It hasn't. I think every leader, once you rip off that first Band-Aid of a hard talk, the rest become pretty easy. And one thing that helped me with hard conversations at a previous job, we did really well with having courses on nonviolent communication. And it was your will of words, what your wants are, what your needs are, and making sure you know the difference between them in the words that you use. And then also knowing who your audience is. I always like to do the bird assessment with people. So if I know this is an owl, I know I'm going to be direct. If I know this is a dove or a peacock, I need to get my words across, but in a way that they're able to understand and not be on defense as soon as we're talking. And that's really shaped the way that I go into conversations when I say, hey, we're about to have a hard talk. And I want to let you know we're about to have a hard talk. These are the things that I am seeing, and I try to be objective with things and come with facts so that conversations aren't spinned around and I have control of the narrative and can navigate it. I always take pauses. How are you feeling? You know, because hard talks can be difficult for some people who've never had a hard talk before. So I don't find it difficult to have those things. I always allow people the opportunity to turn things around. A hard talk's just the first step to things. It's never out of the blue. And that's the thing that some leaders miss out on is having conversations out of the blue. If you can kind of check someone is secretly quitting or silently quitting or their numbers aren't hitting, you have to start having conversations early on. So you're dropping breadcrumbs. And then if it's, you can't reverse it, then that one-on-one that you have to document, then it makes it much easier because they're not on the defense. They don't feel like it's out of the blue. We've already had little syncs, little 10-minute talks. So it's just about your preparation for a hard talk.
Yeah. Just for those that are not familiar, you mentioned bird styles, which is one way of identifying communication styles. The DISC assessment, people are probably more familiar with, but you and I are on the same page. I like the
Yeah.
birds because I think the birds actually are more descriptive. And even if you
Mhm.
don't know the different types. When you paint someone as a particular bird style, you go, oh, okay, I get it. It makes it really easy. So what style are you?
Once in my life, I was a peacock. Now, being in leadership this long, I'm an owl. You just have to give it to me straight.
Mm,
And most of the times when you're in meetings with leadership, there is no fluff. It's straight, no chaser.
yeah.
It's straight, no chaser. There is no fluff. I give fluff to ICs, but if I'm in a meeting with my managers, I don't have to have all of these colors and hold your hand and talk about things. We can get straight to the point. We save that for our team who may need that.
Yeah.
But with managers or with leaderships and executives, it is always straight to the point. You have to be an owl and just cut the BS and let's talk.
Yeah, it's interesting because the way that we communicate given a particular audience, given a particular situation often
Mhm.
needs to change. That is one of
Yeah.
the key principles of identifying communication styles is recognizing when you need to flex, when you need to change your approach so
Mhm.
that you can be most effective with whomever it is that you're having that conversation with. So I love to hear that you change it up depending on the needs because that tells me that you took the lessons to heart, so I love it, I love it. Okay, well, Tasha, we gotta talk about this podcast that's
Yes.
coming out. So, you are getting ready to launch this podcast. Why this podcast? Why now?
Why this podcast? Well, Rob, I think there are a lot of valuable podcasts out there that I listen to, that I admire. And then there are parts of me that I want to share with everyone. And that I would like a space where people don't have to be so PR with their answers, with their words, and just talk about the things we don't talk about. Like you'll see podcasts of like, oh, let's talk about this CSAT. How can we make this better? No, let's talk about the CSAT that doesn't make sense. Okay. Why does this exist? No one does anything with an NPS. Why? They collect it and do nothing. It makes no sense. Like, I want to talk about the real of it because you have so many leaders who have these metrics and they might have ideas like, hey, this doesn't make sense, but this one does. And sometimes they are not allowed to use their voice to even express that to leadership. Sometimes leadership is very black and white and they're only focused on these metrics, but the metrics aren't getting them answers to bigger insights or anything. It
Mm,
just health metrics, it just looks good. I also want to create a space where leadership is also able to kind of let their hair down again. That's also why I have the CX After Hours events because we have a lot of events where you can go to dinner, you can go to conferences. All of those are valuable. I've had some good pouring into self from those events. But on the flip side, there isn't an event where, at least to my knowledge, where leaders can come, grab a drink, some snacks, and just sit amongst other leaders, just talk your mess. How was your day? You know, like, girl, I just had to put somebody on a pip. Like, man, so did I last week. Like, just those moments where they're able to also build meaningful relationships, connections. You never know if this company does AI and you're searching for AI. And I just want to have to kind of build that community where there's no expectations of hearing pitches or sales and name badges. And that's good for someone else, but it's not valuable to what I'm trying to bring. And with CX Unscripted, I'll be interviewing other leaders, such as yourself, Rob, and other people within the industry, just talking about how they got into it. And again, the metrics we don't like, or how do you keep people, or what stresses you out, what brings you the most joy in this job. I really want to humanize things and just, like I said, no script, straight, no chaser. Let's just go.
I'm excited for this. I love that you just mentioned community events, in-person events. Like, there has been a deluge of podcasts since 2020-ish, and
Yeah.
I am part of that. And so I don't want to discount anyone else who's gotten into this space because I think there are a lot of, like you, there are tons of great podcasts, so many that it's hard to keep up with them, right? But you find
Hmm.
ones that you connect with that you probably pay more attention to and spaces that connect better with you and what you're
Hmm.
trying to learn. And so I think there's room for more podcasts. But podcasts by nature are recorded, and they're always going to be a little bit guarded because there are just certain things that you just can't have on video. Like I can't have
Mhm.
that out there, right?
Yeah.
But these in-person events where I can really get down to the nitty-gritty and just talk about the struggles that I am working through on a day-to-day basis and getting advice from other people who may have
Mhm.
been in a similar situation, like, there is so much value to that,
Yes.
that no podcast is ever going to really prep you for, because by nature, I'm just listening, right? And I'm not
Mhm.
asking questions. But when I am sitting with someone who has
Yeah.
sat in my shoes, now like we can have these back and forth, and can I can really probe and understand how well I approach this situation tomorrow when I'm back in the office or whatever the case may be. And I think we have lost some of that in this world where a lot of us work at home. I am a huge, huge advocate of working from home, but I recognize that we lose these water cooler conversations, even if we try to replicate things like we do in my company. Like our team has like a Friday water cooler where like you just show up if you want to show up and you don't talk about work. But
Yeah.
those conversations where I might just drop into a peer's office and say, hey, I need your advice. I've got to do this thing today with this person and I'm worried. I'm worried that this is not going to go well.
Uh-huh.
And let's just talk through it. That is missing, or it is less accessible, I guess, is what I'm trying to
Mhm.
say in this virtual world. So I love that you're doing that. Cheers to you for making that happen because I know people are going to get value out of it.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. It was w I had through the first event, and, what's crazy though about it is I posted maybe 4 months ago on LinkedIn that I wanted to throw, a CX brunch. And I was like, "Hey, just mimosas, food, and some DJ, and everybody just come and let down their hair." And immediately I got hit up from Codif and Syncline. It's like, let's partner with you. And I was like, okay. And it's like, hey, you want to do it first quarter? And I was like, oh, moving too fast. Okay, yeah, but let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. This is going fast. All right. I was thinking later on down the year, but you want to move now? And I take that as a sign. Like somebody wants to move off an idea you had, move with it. So I just had to move with it. And just had the first event, what, 2 weeks ago? Man, we pretty much had every RSVP there except for maybe a few that had to drop off. But it was a great event on a rooftop. We had open bar. The food was great. I'm still dreaming about that truffle pasta that was there. My God, that was so good. But I spent the majority of the time just crowd surfing and just looking at people and their smiles and their enjoyment and listening in on some conversation. I was just like, wow, this was it. This was it. And I still had people hitting me up afterwards like, hey, I missed this. When's the next one? Or hey, just heard about your event. And I put up a poll and everybody wants it every quarter now. So I was like, okay, I got to prepare for the next one, maybe in end of June, end of Q2. So I like that this idea was a hit, and more so that people wanted community in this version to have. Because a lot of times as leaders, you do go through a lot, and you put on a great face for your ICs and for your managers. You can't really talk about your issues to your boss because you don't want to seem incompetent or that you're not prepared or anything. So you try to divulge as little as you can sometimes. There's a fine line between, hey, today sucked, or today had its challenges. But you can go to CX after hours and be like, today drained me.
Mm.
And they're like, man, it drained me too. Cheers to that. That's the type of community that I'm trying to foster here.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. When you want to get me a plane ticket, I will happily come out and join. It turns out that when you live in South Central Kansas, there are far fewer of these types of events that are easily accessible. I don't know why that is. I don't. This is not a hub, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do about that, but that's okay. I will maybe join virtually out out on the deck and have a drink, and you can just pass the phone around, and I'll say hi to everyone. Like
You know what, Rob? I'm thinking big. So you got to be thinking big. I'm thinking big. And what I see, and this can be recorded now, in a year from now, CX After Hours will be in Mexico. You can bring a +1,
okay,
and we're going to have a
okay,
time there. That's what I
all
see.
right, all right. I could be down for a trip to Mexico.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I got to renew my passport.
Same.
So good reminder, folks. Don't you renew your passport because you'll be in line before I will, and it'll just take longer. But after I tell you that mine is done, then feel free, like go get your passport so that you can join us in Mexico for CX After Hours south of the border in a year. Is that what you're committing to?
Yeah.
A year? Did I
Yeah.
just hear that? Okay. Well, you heard it here. The first episode of CX Unscripted. When is that dropping?
I'm going to try to have this drop because I'm starting to do some recordings now. So mid-April. But if I'm delayed like a first response time, then it might be.
See, this is a metric that really does matter.
might be
you
towards
get
the
out of
end.
here about first response time. We need to talk.
It might be towards the end of April, but my target is mid-April. So
Okay.
I'm going to start releasing some shorts very soon.
Coming soon
Yes.
to a podcast outlet near
Yes.
you. CX Unscripted. If you are listening to this after the first episode has dropped, go down to the show notes, find a link to the podcast, go check out the episode. Absolutely. Click on that link. If you're not already connected on LinkedIn, do it. Tell Tasha
Yes.
I sent you. And thank you so much for joining the show. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Man, Rob, thanks for having me. This was fun. Like I said, I've loved our energy from day one of our introduction. So I'm going to make sure I have you on my podcast as well so we can, talk some stuff, pick your brain a little bit. But it was a joy being on your podcast.
Cheers to that.
Next in Queue is produced by me, Rob Dwyer. Theme music is courtesy of Big Red Horse. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with at least one person. Word of mouth is the best way for people to discover new content. And thanks for listening.